you might want to adjust the precision of your YouTube channel to maybe 140 or 360 or something like that. But this is going to be a really quick one. I'm not going to keep you waiting much longer. So I wanted to share some lessons learned that we got from a student of ours, Jeff Bell, and he had some great lessons to share. I'm actually going to put the slides up once I'm done with this meeting so that people who missed it can actually get a few things from what Jeff had to say. He had some really great points. So the first thing he says is, first of all, I want to start out by saying Phil's PMP essentials are crucial for success. Also, the audio set was key as well, a must if you want to pass. So I'll just say for those of you who already have your materials, if you don't have these materials he's talking about, just listen to my 40 days to PMP and CAPM exam success, okay? Just make sure you set that to your YouTube, subscribe and listen to it on the go, and you'll get an effect close to what he's talking about. This is a big one. He says 75% of his exam was situational. So if you haven't taken situational type questions, you might want to go look for my 20 questions that are out there for free on YouTube. Take those and take questions that are situational. Don't waste your time with namby-pamby questions. You know the questions I'm talking about. You know, I'm not endorsing any training provider, but you know those training providers that people complain about, their questions are too easy. Those are not the easy ones you want to do, because I've had a lot of people say, Phil, I took mock exams. I was in the 60s, 70s, 80s. Then I went and took the real thing and I didn't pass. So you want to make sure you take situational type questions. He says, watching Phil's YouTube video on how to tackle nasty PMP questions will help with these type of questions. So if you just type in how to tackle nasty PMP questions, type that into YouTube, it will come up with my video. Watch that. He says lots of communication and stakeholder management questions. He says, I suggest you watch Phil's YouTube video on managed communications and stakeholder versus control communication. So there's a video, I put up the difference between manage and control for both communication and stakeholder. That's what he's talking about. This is very important. You might want to take a few notes of these if you have not already taken note of these words, these buzzwords. Things like secondary risk, residual risk, risk owner, risk action owner, risk response owner, risk register, risk audit, risk reassessment, probability and impact matrix, decision tree analysis, risk trigger, risk threshold, and stakeholder accepted tolerance levels. All of these are buzzwords that he recommends that you look up and that you know. He says most of the situational questions were, what should you do next and first? So what should you do next? What should you do first? These types of questions, you can expect those on the exam. He gives some examples. The PM is new on a project. What is the first document he or she should review? Or the customer wants to add a new requirement to the project. A change request has been submitted and approved by the CCB. What should the PM do next? Or the customer is not satisfied with the direction of the project and wants to shut it down. What action should the PM take? So there are lots of videos that I've got out there that also cover these types of questions. He also makes mention of a video called the Mainline video. If you go to YouTube and type in PMP or PMBOK Mainline, this video should come up. And he recommends that you watch these videos. There are also a few additional videos. And like I said, I'm going to put this PDF in the description once we're done with this. He said, I had 3 to 4 questions on constructing a network diagram. These questions were cut and dry. If you know how to do a network diagram, you shouldn't have a problem. So you can expect some of those. Next, he said, I had 4 to 5 formula questions. I remember working the formula for SPI and CPI. Just do the maths and you should be okay. So if SPI is a particular number, what does it mean? CPI is a particular number, what does it mean? Stuff like that. He then says the execution, monitoring, and controlling knowledge areas, it means process groups were big. 31% of your exam is executing and 25% is monitoring and controlling. So my advice is if you haven't hunkered down into those areas, you definitely want to do that. And the bottom line, he says, take advantage of the coaching and the training that we have, because very few YouTube channels will actually engage you the way I will. So if you have any questions, concerns, comments about your exam, this is a forum for you to chat those to me, and I will answer them. So if you have any questions, now will be a good time to chat them in, and let me get you some answers. Okay? Have you put in time in studying today? Have you listened to some audio? Have you taken some quizzes? If you haven't, my recommendation is that you add that to your list of things to do. Like for me, taking this exam, I would wake up in the morning and listen to audio. That would be the first thing. I would listen to audio as I was getting ready. I would listen to audio on the way. And then if I had a chance at work, I would do quizzes, mock exams, shut myself away, or take time off break to do that. So my advice is don't stop. Just keep on hitting it as hard as you possibly can, okay? So today is really short because of all the technical issues we've been facing. I think this might be a YouTube associated issue. But this is going to be really quick, like I said. I'm not going to keep you waiting for too long. But I am going to give you a few things to think about in terms of studying the scope management knowledge area. I'm just going to write a few things out for you. All right. So if you're studying the scope management knowledge area, my recommendation, first of all, is for you to create your own data flow diagram. Create a data flow diagram for yourself to see the flow of things and try to understand the flow. Use mind maps, use a lot of charts that you create on your own, and that's going to help you put everything together. Okay? So the first thing I would like you to hone in on is the scope management plan and also the requirements management plan. Know what is in them, okay? Because on certain questions, you can get confused between scope management plan, requirements management plan, scope statement, okay? So these are some things I want you to hone in on. Okay? Scope management plan. I would like you to go deeper into actually unraveling what is in these plans, okay? Next thing is something called a project scope statement. So your project scope statement is a document, very important one in the world of the PMI, that contains inclusions, exclusions, constraints, and assumptions. Definitely one you want to read up in more detail. Number 4 is your WBS. So your WBS and your WBS dictionary. Those are another 2 that I would highly suggest that you look up. And of course, you know these make up the scope baseline. So you want to read that up really, really well. Okay? And I suggest, again, that you use mind maps. Don't try to study the PMBOK guide without making mind maps and charts and stuff, because that would really help you. And last of all, before we close for today, I want to call your attention to a very important page in the PMBOK guide. And I'm just going to explain a few of these things for you, because people who are getting ready for the exam need to know this page, page 78. So on page 78, we've got that table. It's called Differentiation Between the Project Management Plan and Project Documents. On your exam, I can almost bet that you're going to get quite a number of questions from this table right here. So if you haven't honed in on this table, my advice to you is that you do that. I'm going to go through the project documents on the right-hand side and just give you very quick descriptions of what these are to help you as you study for the exam. All right, activity attributes. Activity attributes are further descriptions of activities. It goes beyond just the activity name but it actually tells you who is working on the activity, who the resource is. It tells you the geographic location of the task at hand or the activity at hand. Also describes the successor, the predecessor, so on and so forth. The next thing here is activity cost estimates. These are cost estimates for the activities in the schedule. We've got activity duration estimates. Duration estimates for the activities, again, in the schedule. We have activity list, of course, the original list of activities. We have activity resource requirements. These are your requirements as far as resources are concerned. So for each activity, you have certain resource requirements. That's what this is talking about. And we're talking about all manner of resources, not just human. But we're talking about equipment, we're talking about material, talking about supplies. The next one here is agreements. These are agreements between you and either a seller or between you and it could even be a customer. Next one here is basis of estimates. This is the basis for the estimates that you have made. It's backup documentation that explains to people how you came up with those estimates. The next one here is change log. It's a log of all the changes that have been processed by the change control board. And this is an output of performing integrated change control. All right, if you're following along, I'm on page 78, taking a look at change requests. These are requests for changing one thing or another on the project. Next one here is forecast. So we've got two, and these two are quite important. Cost forecast and schedule forecast. Now, some people mix up the word forecast with plan, but they're two different things. A forecast is made when the project is underway, whereas the plan is made when the project is not fully in motion. In other words, you've not really gotten to executing, you're still planning. That's planning. But for you to have a forecast, the forecast has to be based on something that's happening now. So based on current cost conditions, here's the forecast. Or based on current schedule conditions, here's the forecast. All right, the next one is issue log. It's a log of all issues. And issues are really points of disagreement between team members. Things that they don't agree on, things that there's confusion about, and needs to be ironed out. That's really what the issue log is all about. Milestone list, a list of all the milestones. What's a milestone? It's a zero duration event. So it's an event that takes place in the project, but it's not a task. It's like the accomplishment of something. It also marks the end of a phase. So words like milestones, kill points, phase exits, phase end reviews, all of those are important. All right, next one here is procurement documents. And some of these are the documents you use to solicit sellers. So RFPs, RFIs, IFNs, stuff like that. Invitation for bid, invitation to negotiate, invitation for negotiation, all that stuff. Next one here is project calendars. A project calendar shows you working time on the project. When are we working on the project? When are we not? When are the holidays? When is the work time? Now, for some reason, we've got these bunched together, and the reason is PMI's conservation of paper, because if you look at page 78, you wonder why project charter, project funding requirements, and all that, they're kind of grouped together in a goofy way. I have students asking me, Phil, why are these all bunched together? And I tell people it's for convenience, because they didn't want to waste the paper, apparently. Otherwise, these should have been two different tables, okay? So there's no correlation between the project document and the project management plan, all right? Okay, so the first one here, project charter, it's a document that authorizes the project worked on by the PM but signed by the sponsor. In some firms, I mean, PMs could put their signature on as part of an agreement type thing, but really the authority on the charter is the project sponsor. Then we've got project funding requirements, the funding requirements for the project in total and periodically. We've got the project schedule, which shows you the schedule for the project. It's a living, breathing document. So the project schedule is not the schedule baseline. The schedule baseline is the schedule etched in stone, and it has the start and finish dates that you're going to measure your progress against. But the actual project schedule is a living, breathing document that needs to be updated and changed. The next one here is project schedule network diagrams. And these are network diagrams that show task relationships, finish to finish, start to start, so on and so forth. And it also illustrates the critical path and output of sequence activities. On the next page, we've got project staff assignments. So after you've got your staff, you assign them to tasks and activities. As you acquire them, you assign them. So that's project staff assignments. Based on your project staff assignments, you may need to send people for additional work. You may need to send them for team building, for training, and stuff like that. Next one here is project statement of work. Now, in a nutshell, this is a high-level narrative description of what the customer wants the performing organization to do on the project. Right? Quality checklist. It's a checklist of things that you need to inspect into the deliverable, things that you need to check as you go along. All right, next thing here is quality control measurements. All right, for those of you just joining, we are actually watching a video, if you're watching the live stream, about page 78. Page 78 is where we have all the project documents, listed. I'm explaining them. They're not explained on page 78, but I'm trying to cover all of the project documents to sensitize you to the fact that these could come out on the exam and you need to be aware of them. All right. So quality control measurements, again, measurements of certain attributes in a deliverable. These are the actual measurements, different from the metrics. A metric is the attribute to be measured, but the actual measurement is measuring that attribute. For example, inches is an attribute. 12 inches is a measurement. 2 feet. Feet metric, but 2 feet measurement, if you get what I mean. Then we go into quality metrics, which is the attribute being measured. Requirements documentation is talked about in collect requirements. And this is a document that shows how the requirements meet the needs of the business. It's different from the next one, which is a requirements traceability matrix known as the RTM. And the RTM is a document that tracks requirements back to their origin, or requirements to use case, requirements to test script, so on and so forth. There are many variants of the RTM. Next one here is the RBS, resource breakdown structure. It shows the breakdown of resources being used on the project. Also a very important one, mentioned a few times in the PMBOK guide. Next one here is resource calendars. Resource calendars are calendars that are specific to the resources. So I first of all talked about project calendars. Project calendars show you working time for the project. But resource calendars show you working time for the resources. When are they on holiday? When are they available? When are they not? Stuff like that. All right. So as I'm talking about these things, I'm hoping that you are thinking about the outputs that they are. Where are they from? Which process do they come from? And stuff like that. All right. Moving along here, we get to risk register. The risk register is an output of identify risks, and it has a list of risks. And it also, as you go along, has information about the risk approach to attacking the risks or managing the risks. It also has the risk owner name, the risk action owner, things like that. It also has the expected monetary value or risk magnitude, depending on what you call it. The next one here is schedule data. So your schedule contains data. The data in the schedule is referred to as scheduled data. And this scheduled data can be used to show various representations of the schedule model. You could show the scheduled data in a Gantt chart or bubble diagram of sorts, depending on whatever you need to illustrate to your team. Next one here is seller proposals, proposals from sellers. We get this in conduct procurement. Next one is source selection criteria, criteria that we use to weigh the proposals. So you get all the proposals back, you weigh them against source selection criteria. This is an output of planned procurement management. Next, we have stakeholder register. It's a register of your stakeholders, their names, their level of power and influence in the firm, which phase are they most interested in, and stuff like that. Next one here is team performance assessments. And the team performance assessments are carried out to assess if the team truly did learn anything in the training that they went for. And based on those assessments, we can better manage the team and make recommendations. We can do our team performance reviews based on that information and see if they've really improved, if they learn anything or not. All right, then we've got the final three on this page. We've got work performance data and work performance information and work performance reports. And there's a reason why they're in that order. We get data first, then the data is processed because it's just a raw observation. After you process work performance data and you analyze it, you get work performance information. For example, work performance data could be, we've got 100 defects. Well, what's the implication of that? What's the severity of it? How do I know what that means to my time, cost, and scope? It has to be analyzed so I know the impact of those defects. When I analyze it, I do that in work performance. I do that and it comes out as work performance information. I do this in the monitoring and controlling processes. And then I get out my work performance information that tells me, okay, you got 100 defects. It's going to cost you $500 or something to that effect. Okay. And then after you've got all this work performance information, it then becomes an input to monitor and control project work, and you get out your work performance reports. So this is page 78 for you, the project document section. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. We've got about 37 things that you could be tested on the exam. That's kind of big when you come to think of it. A lot of people don't hone in on page 78. I would highly advise that you do, because if you hone in on this page, you're likely to encounter a lot of this stuff on the exam, and it's going to be low-hanging fruit for you. All right. Now, I'm going to very, very quickly go through the project management plan components. Change management plan, a plan for how to manage any manner of change across the project. Communications management plan, a plan that helps you decide what to communicate, why and when. Configuration management plan, a plan that gives you guidance on how to manage features of certain deliverables of interest or items of interest. The configuration management plan, for example, could guide you on how to version drawings on the project, or guide you on how to version software that you're developing on the project, or guide you on how to version your baselines. Okay? The cost baseline is the original cost that was decided upon that you would need to adhere to. So it's the time phase budget at completion for the entire project. So we're looking at time phases, looking at their budget, and looking at the entire timeline and its budget. Cost management plan, a plan for how to manage cost, tells you the processes you need. Human resource management plan, a plan that tells you how to acquire the team and how to develop the team and manage the team. Process improvement plan, a plan for how to improve your processes within the project and how to optimize what you're doing. Procurement management plan, a plan that guides you on how to procure services or goods from external to the firm. Scope baseline contains three things, which I hope you know what they are. Contains a WBS dictionary, and a project scope statement. Quality management plan, a plan for how to manage quality on the project. Requirements management plan, a plan for how to collect requirements. These are things, hopefully, that you know. Risk management plan, a plan that guides you on how to identify and manage your risks. Schedule baseline. This is the original schedule etched in stone. Scope management plan and schedule management plan, as the names imply. Schedule management plan, a plan for how to manage your schedule, and a plan for how to even develop your schedule in the first place. Scope management plan, a plan for how you're going to identify what needs to be done, scope it out, define the scope, even create your work breakdown structure, and how you're going to get that deliverable approved by the customer, how you're going to prevent gold plating, and last but not least, the stakeholder management plan, which is a plan for how your stakeholders are going to be identified and how they're going to be managed. All right. So, folks, that concludes our hustle for your muscle. You got to hustle. I refused to let go of the meeting. I said, no, we got to hustle. We got to make sure we drop something for people today. I didn't just want to end the meeting without dropping something. So at least you can watch this segment. I know most people have had to leave because I said the meeting was canceled, but I decided to have it because I know you got to hustle to get this stuff down. And I didn't want to leave without dropping some gold for you. So that is page 78. These are Jeff's suggestions, which I'm going to put into the description. And those of you who have any questions for me, do not hesitate to chat them in, because the chat box is going to be left open even after this stream is done, okay? So once again, sincere apologies for all the streaming issues. I have no idea what was going on with YouTube, but I'm glad we were able to at least get some time in today. We'll be having a much longer meeting on Saturday. Savage on Saturdays, okay? So show up for that, and I wish you all the best in your prep. And don't forget to let me know what you would like to see in these meetings. Take care, and I wish you all the best. Bye for now.